All right, today we are going to talk about calendaring and about the tool that it is and how to use it and what some of the thought processes are that are going into using the calendar. This is going to take into effect a couple of core values that we have. One is know what's important and keep it a priority, which is core value number 3. This is also going to lay heavily on continually evaluate tasks to ensure self and customer satisfaction, core value number 4. And reviews where several of us talked about how those are very similar, but they're also very, very different. We'll go look at each of those today. And there it is, apparently twice. Know it's important to keep it a priority. There we go. All right, so let's go talk about some principles of time management, why we're using the calendar. We have both tasks and Pebbles is what I end up referring to them as. Tasks are things that need to be done, right? Just straightforward stuff that we've got to get done. Pebbles, though, it's all the little crap that gets in the way of getting that thing done, okay? Or the things that are involved in getting that task done. So there's big picture, small picture. So let's take taking out the trash. All right, we're going to take out the trash. What are some of the pebbles that are involved in taking out the trash?
Put trash in the trash.
You got to put trash in the trash.
You have to empty the other garbage cans into the big one.
Yeah, so you got to go around and grab it all up and empty it into the big one.
Make it clean before you do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Empty the vacuum cleaner.
Make sure everything that you're supposed to have in the trash can is actually in the trash can. Yeah.
Sort recycling.
Oh, there we go. Sort and recycling it out. Yeah, absolutely. So all those things. Separate the recycling out, gather the trash up from all over the place, take it out to the dumpster, and hey, don't forget that the dumpster comes, they come pick the dumpster up on Tuesday at 7 o'clock, so get it out there, all right? Those are all the little tasks that are involved in that bigger grandiose one of, hey, take the trash out, all right? Let's go look at another one. Call this customer. So Logan, your accounts receivable management. Hey, call this customer. What does that include?
Pull up the customer card, look at their notes, pull up their rental document, look at whatever you need to look at, call the customer, look at their ARV, make sure you know as much as you can before you call the customer.
Yeah, you've got to study a lot, don't you?
Know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
Anticipate what they're going to say.
Absolutely. That's right. Anticipate that and have the questions, the guiding questions in place for that, have the mirrors in place for that. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so you're going to research, you're going to find their number, you're going to figure out your approach, you're going to anticipate what they're saying, on and on and on in order to get that done. So you've got the actual task itself and then all the little tiny pieces that come into that. Make sense? All right, so as we go about life, those tasks, those small little pebbles, and even the tasks themselves get in the way of having a good full life, right? We end up saying, well, I want the big important things in life to get done, but I can't get them done because I keep having to take out the trash instead of playing with my kids, sort of concept. Now those things always get in your way unless you do certain things, unless you control your time, your energy, your efforts, your output, and you make a schedule. It's the only way around it. It's the only way around making sure that you can get all these things done is if you control those things. All right? So you have to know what's important, and you've got to find, that's the easy part, right? I know that my family life is important to me. I know that my spiritual life is important to me. I know that my physical health is important to me. But I've also got work, and I've got this thing, and I've got that thing, and I've got this thing. So how do you make sure that they're there? You put them on your calendar. You schedule it out. You create time for it. So most important priorities. How do we determine what actually gets the majority of our time, the majority of our effort, the majority of our focus? How do we actually make the determination of what's out there? Of all these things that I'm supposed to do, how do I know which ones go first? Here's the criteria put to them. They have to have long-term value. All right. So I've got to go get my hair cut. Does that push my kid's soccer game out of the way? No, it does not. It doesn't, because a haircut really doesn't have that long-term value, right? I think at some point all of us have had a little bit longer hair than we want to because we just haven't got to it. And that's okay. Let's say we've got customer standing here in front of us, but we're also supposed to, sweep the floor. Does sweeping the floor have long-term value? maybe-ish, but what has more importance to us as a business? Customer satisfaction. Exactly. All right. It has to require constant attention. That's the second criteria. If it doesn't require constant attention, if this thing doesn't require constant attention, it is not a prioritized task. It's not one of the rocks in life. So you've got to continue to come back to it. And it has to take considerable thought and energy. It can't be something that's sitting out there and, oh yeah, it's just easy, I can just do it. That doesn't qualify as one of the big rocks. It has to be life-altering. It has to be a tremendous amount of effort and energy put into it in order for you to call it a big, huge priority that requires your first task of scheduling. Okay? Now, let's go look at the differences between rocks and pebbles. Rocks are life-altering things. Okay, so these big tasks, I call them rocks. We're trying to get the rock into the jar here of life. They are life-altering. They require constant attention. They require lots of energy. They cannot be ignored. If you want to have a good, fulfilled life, if you want to be that person who feels good about who they are with that zero regret mentality, you can't ignore them, right? And they have to define kind of a quality of life. I've said many times that work is here in order to afford us the opportunity to do the things we want to do. It's utilitarian to some standpoint. We work because we need cash. We take care of people because we need to trade value for value. I've got other things I value. In order to go get those, I have to exchange value somewhere else. So that is utilitarian. But in order for something to be a rock, it's got to really be, I don't know, something that's going to improve life. Does that make sense? Not necessarily the acquisition of this car. That's when it'll arrive. And when I can get the Maserati, yeah, now I've got it. All right, the Maserati improves the speed from which you can get from point A to point B. Is it really improving the quality of your life, though? To some very superficial people, they probably say yes. They'd be wrong in the grand scope of things, so I want to think. All right, let's go look at pebbles. Pebbles are the small tasks that are part of the rock. All right, I want to go spend time with my family. Well, what is that? That means we've got to get them signed up for soccer team and club sports. You got to get them signed up for lessons. You've got to get them, and then you got to take them to those things. You've got to help them get better. You got to spend time at school with them so that you can go and enjoy the graduations or whatever. You've got to those are all the individual tasks, the pebbles that are involved in family time, right? And the pebbles are, again, they're important. They can't be ignored, but they've got to have their place and priority. And that's what we want to go look at is we've got these conflicting ideas. Well, this is really important, but yeah, so is this. But how do you determine what goes in on your calendar first? Okay. So you guys have all seen this concept before where you've got the jar of life, right? And you've got your big rocks, the important things in life, and then you've got all the sand, and then you've got all the water and all the oil and all the sugar, right? If you start off putting all the small priorities in your jar of life first, are you ever going to get the rocks in the jar? Not at all. But if you start off putting the rocks in the jar, and then you pour the sand in, and then you pour the water in, and then you drop the oil in, and then you mix the sugar in, can you get it all in the jar? Have you all seen this analogy before? All right, that's what we're talking about. Rocks go in the jar first. Rocks are the things you schedule first, and you give priority in your life to first. Then everything else comes. And this is the picture. If you put the sand in on the left-hand side, and then the little ones, and then the big ones are sticking out of your jar. But the other way around, everything fits. And this concept makes sense, right? And it's like, oh, that's nice. It's warm and fuzzy, all that, but it doesn't work for me. Well, then you've missed something. And what you've missed is the ability to control your time, your energy, and your output. That's the part you've missed. So anytime somebody comes to me and says, oh, I just can't get these important things done because I've got all this minutia crap, you have missed the opportunity to schedule and control your time, your energy, and your output. You have to make the decisions first to get those things done in order to have a good quality of life. All right, so let's look at these priorities. Rocks. For me, family is always first. And I'm going to suggest for all of you that that is also your number one rock. That family is always first. It comes above everything else, including working here. All right. For me, the second thing is my spiritual self is next for me. And then what I recommend, and I recommend that's true for everybody, if you don't have that spiritual center, you're going to be lost. And you may disagree with me on that standpoint, saying, well, spirituality is not that important. You're wrong. Spirituality is that important. And if you don't have it in whatever form you're looking for it for, you're missing out. Go find it. Then after that, you've got all the rest of the stuff. And you need to sort out for yourself what those rocks are. I'll show you mine here in just a second. You've got to go find out what they are for yourself. You cannot control any more than 5. If you can't lump your big rocks, your big priorities into 5 categories, you need to keep working at it. When I first started this process, I ended up with 10. I had 10 rocks. Good Lord. I'm pretty good at counting. I'm pretty good at scheduling. There's no way to control it all. All I was doing was constantly put myself into problems because I didn't have things organized correctly. Now, Pebbles, you're going to have all these tasks, right? You're going to have all these things that come up. So how do you set priorities on those? You've got to give them an A, B, and C. All right? So in order for something to be an A priority, you will, Taylor, what? How do we schedule it an A priority? What creates what's the requirement for it to be an A priority?
Lose money on it today.
You lose money or something else?
Someone suffers.
Or someone suffers today. Now, lose money is pretty straightforward and easy. If you're taking care of customers, and this customer needs this taken care of today, if you don't take care of it today, you're going to lose the sale. That's pretty easy to distinguish and make sense of, right? Why do I throw in suffering in there? You'll lose money or someone will suffer today. Why do I throw that part in?
Don't feed your child if they're starving.
You don't feed your kid, they're going to starve. Are they going to starve today? Probably not going to keel over and die, but they're going to be really hungry and they're going to be a pain in the butt by the end of the day. And everyone suffers. What happens if you don't go to the soccer game? Are they going to die today? No. Are they going to suffer today? Yeah, they probably will. Are you going to lose any money today if you don't go to the soccer game? You probably get one. So that's where you've got to make sure that's both. You're going to lose money or someone's going to suffer today becomes an A priority. How does it become a B priority?
Lose money or someone suffers
tomorrow. But do I have to get it done right now? Or can I get the stuff that's going to affect me today done? Get the stuff that's going to affect me today done first, right? And then tomorrow, I can focus on that. It becomes an A tomorrow. Or if I get all my A's done today, I'm going to start grabbing my B's. How does something become a C priority?
Further than tomorrow.
In more than 2 days. Yep, that's how how you prioritize them. Today, tomorrow, or in more than 2 days. As soon as you get your A's done, you immediately go to your B's. As soon as you get your B's done, you immediately go to your C's. Does that make sense? This isn't overly complicated, is it? When we water it down, this is what makes sense. The challenge is in core value number 3, know what's important and keep it a priority. How do you put this into exercise and practice every single day? All right, rocks first. You must know your rocks. If you don't know them, you can't schedule. You've got to spend time actively thinking about this and working on this. Grab a pen and paper, start writing crap down. Figure out what they are for you. If you want help with that, ask me, I'll help you. Second, you must dedicate time to those first. So when we're looking at putting things on our calendar, you must schedule the time for your rocks. You must schedule time to read your scriptures. You must schedule time to go on a run. You must schedule time to be at the soccer game with your kids instead of at the shop. You must do that activity first. It's the hardest one because you say, well, it's got long-term value, sure, which means I don't have to get it done today. Yeah, make that decision 2,500 times over. You've got a pretty piss poor life. Make the decision today, make it first. And then let the rest of the stuff fall in. And I promise you, 25,000 decisions later, you're going to be a much happier person. So are your kids and everything else that's important to you. All right? Then you must fight like a mad, psychotic fool to keep those things on your calendar. Everything is going to want to take that priority and that time, that space on your calendar, that time in your day and that time of your energy, that piece of your energy. Everything is going to work against those rocks. Fight it. Be ruthless with it. Make sure that those things stay on your calendar first and foremost. Push everything else out of the way to get those things done first. You will be happier in the long run. All right? For me, my rocks are this. Here's my rocks right here. Family is first. Personal development. So this is both spiritual and physical for me. Is my second thing that I schedule. Staff development, systems development, ideas development, those sorts of things are third for me. So what am I needing to work on? What am I needing to grow? What's the next event horizon thing? Those are the next things that I schedule. Marketing is the third thing for me. Inventory, be that inventory acquisition or control or figuring out where it's at. That's the fourth one for me. And then finances is next. Personal and business finances. Those are my rocks. That's what I'm constantly working on, what I constantly have scheduled. Okay? So when I'm scheduling it, I look at my week and I know that I've got these rocks out there and I actually am placing them on my calendar first. Now for me, the first morning hours from 6 a.m. when I wake up till 8 o'clock in the morning, that's my prime time. That's where my brain is most fresh. That's where my energy is most fresh. It's also where my kids and my wife are usually still asleep. And that means certain things are going to go there. So for me, scripture study and runs are there. They alternate every day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They alternate every day that I'm either studying for gospel doctrine class that I teach or reading my scriptures, or I'm out for a run. Because that's the prime time that my brain is focused and capable, and no one else is asking for my time in my family. The phone isn't ringing usually at this point. That's the time I've got to get it done. At 9 o'clock at night, I'm too tired. When I sit down to read at 9 o'clock at night, it's a really good way for me to fall asleep. I wish I didn't, because I normally don't go to bed till 11 o'clock unless I'm reading, and I conk right out. So I know I can't do those things at 9. That's for me. Other people may be completely different. But lay them out on your schedule first. That's your first priority. Then everything else falls into your calendar. All right. Once you've got those on there, then you're going to start adding more as time goes on. So if you're looking at this calendar here, see, like Rachel had Pilates with Sue, so she went and did this. I needed to find a violin for a family member of mine. I had dinner to go out. And then all these other things that are on here. Email draft from Taylor on group classes. So this is a task that I'm needing to follow up on. Talk to the college about teaching something else. I don't know what that was. It was a task that needed to go on to. Start loading YouTube videos up. There's a marketing thing out there. Get Stringfest over to Joe Rowan, info to Joe Rowan. That was a marketing thing that needed to be done. And these are all small tasks that are going on my calendar. And notice how some of these things are overlapping. I like John Bingham info in the marketing folders overlapping, Audrey Wood for lessons, and get bumped up right against employment contract from Whitney and so on and so forth. That's because I'm not necessarily scheduling time on my calendar at all times. My calendar is my catch-all for everything. Everything ends up on my calendar. I don't leave it in 4 different spots. If there's an email I need to follow up on, guess where it goes? Into my calendar. If there's somebody sends me leaves a task on my desk and says, hey, I need you to follow up on this, or I need to get this done, guess where it goes? Written on my calendar. Because I know that this is the mechanism that is the most effective way to remember everything and get it all done. All right, we'll keep going. List all of your tasks on your calendar. Get the tasks out of email and add them onto the calendar. Never, ever, ever use a sticky note. Ever again.
Did you find the one on your computer?
I did. Who left that there? You? She thinks she's so funny.
I did. We thought you'd enjoy the joke.
Sure, but I am adamant in the fact that they are from the devil, all right? They are worthless pieces of device. They do you no good whatsoever because you're going to end up with this litany of sticky notes and no idea what to do with them. When they came, where they are, what the notes are, who did I get this one done? Did I not get this done? I can't search the sticky notes. I can when it's all on my calendar.
We used to put all our passwords on sticky notes, put it on our computer.
Brilliant, isn't it? That's brilliant. You know, the sticky notes good for, I don't know, marking a book so you know what page to turn to. That's about all a sticky note is good for. Other than that, around here, you've got $1,500 iMac computer sitting out there in front of you. Use them. All right, it's a much better tool. Consider your calendars as your brain. And you guys have several times heard me, you know, when I'm talking with a customer and they say, hey, well, when is this or how is this? I don't know, let me go find my brain. What I mean by that is I'm going to go find my calendar. I'm going to go grab that phone so it's got my calendar on it so I can go through and look at what things are. I don't try to remember it all because I know as smart as I am, I'm not that smart. That's where you're supposed to all say you're not that smart anyways. But I know I'm not that good. And I don't need to be. I've got a system to make me good. All right? So I'm going to back up here real quick. Be flexible in daily workload and move them down the line. What I mean by that is there's lots of things that were piled on that calendar that day that we were just looking at, right? Now, if certain things are taking more time, I'm flexible. I know that this thing's not an A or B priority. It's a C. So I'm not going to spend any more brain calorie on it than knowing it's a C. Slide it down the calendar. Click, hold, drag, drop, and get it off out of the way. Don't spend any calories burning brain power on that. Just get it out of the way. Focus on the A and B priorities today. Get your C's out of your way. Very first thing I do in the morning when I sit down is I look at my calendar and I prioritize my day on A, B, and C tasks. The very first thing I do every day. It's the very last thing I do every day. Slide them down the line. All right, get them out of the way. And then apply your A, B, and C rules to your tasks. Make sure that they are prioritized so you know what you need to get done when. List everything on your calendar, all right? But here's the caveat. Here's where this becomes freeing for you. This sounds like a lot of work, right? Oh, you want me to list everything on here? You want me to just I'm going to waste so much time just writing crap down. No, you're not. You're going to get a lot more done when you're doing this. But here's the biggest time saver. When something doesn't qualify as a C, you're not going to lose money on this if you don't do it. And no one's going to suffer if you don't do it. Does it belong on your calendar? Logan says no. Michael says, maybe. When could it go on your calendar? Under what circumstances could it apply and actually take some of your time?
Well, if it has to be done, it doesn't qualify as, I have to get my car washed today or sometime. It's not an A, B, or C.
You could argue that if you don't ever wash your car, the value of the vehicle is going to go down, so you're going to lose money on it in the long run. You could argue that.
But if you use that logic, everything becomes a C.
Everything becomes a C. Yep. So when do you decide to go wash the car?
Did all my A, B, and C tests.
When I've got all my A, B's, and C's done. That's when they can come in. When you actually have everything off the counter, completed, and you've got room for it, then it can come in. But what happens if you don't have your A's done today? And somebody comes and says, I've got an emergency, I've got to have your help. I've got to have this piece of music right now. Or you've got to come help me pick out a new dress for this thing tomorrow night. Does it go on your calendar?
That's how much money you lose or how much people suffer.
Is somebody going to suffer if you don't get is somebody going to suffer if, let me rephrase. Are you going to suffer if that person who didn't plan on a $2 piece of sheet music doesn't get the $2 piece of sheet music? No, you're not going to suffer. Are they?
No. They deserve to.
There's certainly that category, isn't there? Your failure to plan does not consist of what's an emergency for me. Is that what it is? Now, mind you, some people are going to say, well, yeah, but that's customer service. Yeah, but why give up a $150 sale, profit on a sale, for a $2 one? You can't. Why give up a $30,000 marketing campaign for a $2 piece of sheet music that they failed on to plan on? You can't. You've got to tell them no. And you have good reasons. I'm sorry, I'm working on other stuff that I'm sorry, I just don't have room for that as a priority for me right now. I got to have you come help me pick out a pair of pants for this event I'm going to tomorrow night. Can you come? I got to go pick out a new pair of pants. I can't. I don't have the room right now. Well, it's just taken a half hour, and I don't have it. My day's scheduled out. I don't have it. It becomes liberating. It gives you something to lean on that's not an excuse to say, it's not a massive priority for me. Good luck in picking out a sexy pair of pants. I hope they make you look great. And send them on their way well wishing. That's the tough part. So if no money or suffering, why do we do them? The reasons we do things that don't apply to that are ego or pride, or an irrational desire. Those are really the reasons why a task is something that doesn't fit the criteria of A, B, or C, why it takes our time. It's because of egos, because of pride, or it's an irrational desire of ours. Some people say, well, I'm trying to be nice. Trying to be, but at your own great expense. That's irrational. Well, I'm just trying to help somebody out. Great, at your own expense. That's irrational. Especially when it wasn't that big of a deal. Are pants that big of a deal? No, they're really not. That's why I threw in the word earlier, ruthless. You've got to guard your time. If you don't, you're going to screw things up for yourself. You're going to be ticked off at yourself 25,000 decisions down the road. Make sense? All right, let's move on. So this is my calendar for a week. All right, this was back in March of 2016. This was a screenshot of my calendar on Monday morning. Notice how much stuff is on Monday. Monday's pretty full, right? Does that mean I have to get every single one of those things done on Monday? No, it does not. This is the end of the day on Monday.
You moved all your C's to
I've moved all my C's down to Wednesday. I've got lots of stuff done on Monday. But stuff has been pushed down the line.
Do you delete stuff when you do it?
I never delete. We'll get to that here in just a second. I'll show you this in just a second. Notice that the tasks have shifted off Monday and gone into other places. That's really what we're looking at here. I never delete stuff. I mark it as done, or I give it a big X. Or do this for a couple of reasons. Yes, that's the second reason. The first one is I want to have the recall of information. What was done? What were the notes that went in along with that? The second one is the endorphin rush. I'm a drug addict. Neuroscience shows that if you have a list and you check something off, your brain will release an endorphin that is a nice, positive, fun endorphin. And it becomes addicting. I like checking things off my list. My wife is a huge list builder. Part of it for her is a download of information. But part of it is she likes to cross some things off. For me, it's totally download of information, just being able to control the flood of tasks that are in front of me. But I really, my primary motivator for me, it's not the download of information. The primary downloader is I get to check, grab off. All right. So
how do you mark it with an X on the calendar?
I simply come in on the description. So right up here where it says done, I come in here and actually type in done, or now I've stopped making that many keystrokes. I found that done was too many keystrokes, so I just do an X and a dash. So X dash this, done. And what that allows me to do is it also allows me to come back into this view here, and you notice how all these things are marked done. What I can do is a very quick review then of scrolling through my calendar as a tool to get back on task. Say done, 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 done. That's what's next. That's what I'm shooting at. That's what I'm hitting right now.
You don't have to waste brain power figuring out what to
Nope.
do.
I've remembered at the beginning of the day, I prioritized A, B, and C's. Left my A's up there, moved my B's down to later in the day. I got rid of my C's. And now I know that I've got my A's done. Now I can move on to my B's. If I got those done and I've come out here to Monday and it's 4 o'clock and I've got all this stuff done, I'm going to start going and grabbing some of those things I moved over to Wednesday and pulling them back. I've got time. That makes sense? I've got them scheduled out. All right. Also, when you're working on the electronic calendars, you can take notes. All right, so notes up here on the right. Run the report. So this is trade-ins, instruments, process to SIs. This is a reoccurring event for myself. And so instead of having to remember, how do I run that report every single week? The notes of how to do that are right here in the calendar event. I know what the report is. I know what the criteria are. I've got it written down. I don't have to rethink about it. I don't have to memorize stuff. I'm not that smart. Write it down.
When you create that as a recurring event, notes go with that.
Go all the way through it. Yep, exactly. I take notes on everything. How to do it, when to do it, who I spoke to, what step is next. All right. The how-to is pretty straightforward. Like on a recurring test, how do I do this? But let's say it's I'm working on a marketing thing and I'm trying to work with the designer Becca on how to do things. I'm putting a note in here that says, the dates. It's 5/15 or whatever today is, 5/16. And I did this. The next step is this. And then I move it down my calendar. Doesn't deserve time on my calendar at all anymore today. I've done it. I move it down to when I needed to take action on it next. And then when that comes up on that day, great. I pull it up and I know exactly what I needed to do on that next, what the next step was. Does that make sense? All right. Notes are searchable. You can go back in if you can't remember who the person was. Like let's say I'm working with Taylor Graff and on a BL305, she needs a better bow for her. Well, I can tell you that I'm going to remember the VL305. I am not going to remember Taylor Graff. So I can type into my calendar VL305, and it will pull up every time that on my calendar in any part in this section, VL305 shows up. Now, lots of those are going to say done. I have a check mark on them. Then I'm going to see the one that says Taylor Graff. Oh, yeah, grab that one. It's Taylor Graff, yeah. Taylor, hey, how you doing? I'm going to look like a genius. Just because I remembered VL305, remember the instrument, and unfortunately not your name. What it really is, I'm stupid. Why don't I remember the person's name? That's horrible of me. I remember their instrument, not their name. But this allows me to cheat. Make sense? All right. Use shorthand in your notes. I say shorthand, not lack of information. Because you're not going to think about this for another couple of days. So instead of typing out email, I write EM. Instead of writing out left message, mine is LFT MSG. I know what they are. It's a shorthanded thing of saying the same way instead of called. What happened with the call? Did you talk to him? Did you not talk to him? Did you leave a message? You've got to make sure it's precise and you can recall it several days later, but use shorthand. Shorten the words up a little bit. All right. The other thing you can do on calendar events is you can invite people. So notice here, this one has Katie and Leanna Blake on it. That way they can also see this task. Now, the rules with invitations, there's 2 of them. Only the people that need to be involved. Those are the only people you need to invite. Don't tell everybody what you're doing. Hey, I've got to go get lunch. Everybody, let's put on everybody's calendar so they know I'm going to lunch. They don't need that on their calendar. That just messes up their day. So only the people that must know about it. And then only for the duration of time that it requires. Notice that this one is from 10 to 10:15. Because pretty much doing that task takes about 15 minutes to run that report, figure out what it is, send it off your way if you're doing it every week. So no longer than it needs to be, and only the people that need to know about it. Nobody likes going to a meeting that's worthless to them. The other thing I do is color code like a mad fool. I have a multiplicity of calendars, and the color coding helps me set A, B, and C priorities. It also helps me know what they are. So I have no categories, just a task. I have priorities saying this is something that absolutely must get done, is usually for a scheduled event. Like this is a meeting outside that I'm going to. Personal stuff for me, just so I know it's mine. I have a shared family, so anytime I mark something that way, it shows up on my calendar and my wife's calendar. It's great that way. Store schedule is in there, so I can see the schedule if I need to, but 90% of the time I've got that one shut off. It's unchecked, so I don't see all that messing up my day, and it doesn't take my attention. That makes sense? So the use of calendars is a very powerful tool, and it adds that color coding in there for you. So here it is. You can see like this purple one out here in the middle on Tuesday. That's something that was supposed to be done by somebody else. That's an assigned out task that I just needed to follow up on. All the gray stuff is tasks. The red stuff is stuff that I needed to be at, so on and so forth. Make sense? All right. So let's look at how and when to change tasks. All right. So you're in the day. How do you figure out what's most important? Let's take this guy. He's a clerk at a store, and his responsibilities, he needs to dust, he needs to provide service to customers. All right, those are his priorities and tasks. So a customer walks in, he's out busy dusting, and a customer walks in the store. What's he supposed to do?
Stop dusting.
Stop dusting and go talk to the customer. Have you ever been in a store, though, where the person's still dusting and ignoring you?
Every store in New York.
Every store in New York, all right. And it's because we've got a missed set of priorities. But let's look at these. Let's apply the rules. So dusting, does it have long-term value?
Yes.
It does. It absolutely does. You bet. Because if you don't dust ever, your store's going to look awful and no one's going to ever want to buy from you. All right. Does it require constant attention? Yeah, unfortunately, it does. I wish it didn't, especially at my house, but unfortunately it does. Does it require considerable thought and energy?
Energy, maybe.
Yeah, maybe energy, but certainly not thought. Huh? Yeah, no, not really. So maybe. Service to the customer. Does it require, does it have long-term value? Absolutely does. Does it require constant attention? Absolutely, especially when that person's in the store, it's all of your attention. Does it require considerable thought and energy? It absolutely does. All right. So what do we do here? Both of their tasks met all the criteria. How do we decide? You've got to remember always what pays the bills, right? Because remember, what's breaking it is you're going to lose money, or someone's going to suffer today, tomorrow, or within 2 days, or within 2 or more days. Are you going to lose money if you stop dusting today? Are you going to lose money if you stop paying attention to that customer today? There's your caveat. That's how you know what you need to shift your attention to. Basically, customers always require your attention above almost everything else that you can possibly do. Very, 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 very few exceptions to that rule. Now, the other thing that happens is if you've got your calendars back on or if you got your tasks back on your calendar, all right, and you go and help that customer, and your brain has shifted off that task. You got out of that process, that thought process you were in, and you've gone and helped this customer. Now you're coming back to your desk. You're coming back to get this other stuff done because you've successfully sold the customer and they've went on their way. How do you get your brain back engaged again? Well, the way you do that is you've got it all out there. You scroll down through, done, 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 done. This is what I'm working on. I've got my notes, where I'm at on it, and I dive right straight back into that task. It's how you become more productive and get things done. This is continually evaluating tasks to ensure self and customer satisfaction. All right, this is core value number 4 in its entirety. All right, so what goes on your calendar? Rocks go on your calendar, right? The big important things. Recurring events, they go on your calendar. So the stuff that needs to be done on a regular basis. Mondays for graph, we need to change the calendars out, and we need to set the management doc. Scott, first thing in the morning, what we're doing, we're running diagnosis on everything that's new in there. You've got stuff on the 1st, on the 5th, and on the 10th, and on the 11th to get done in order to run accounts receivable management. Michael and I run a whole calendar of things that we're running. Exactly, to make sure that we're getting what we need done in the right time. Those are the things that go on there first and importantly. Appointments, places that you need to go, people that you need to see, someone that's going to come in to see you at the store. Those things also go on your calendar. Scheduled tasks, so things that you know need to get done. we're working on the bow cabinets, right? Trying to put stuff together for that. It's not done yet. So that needs to be on the calendar so we see it, we're touching it, we're constantly pushing it down. And it's a reminder to us that, oh yeah, that's not done yet. Slide it down the list. Emails, get them out of the inbox and into your calendar. The inbox is a horrific hole of losing information. About every month I'll go through and just clean my inbox out again, because as much as I work on this, I still forget stuff. And I'll still go through and go, holy crap, I didn't get this one done. Take it out and put it on my calendar and get it done. Needed reminders for like, what are we trying to do when? Bets go on the calendar. All right. If you make a bet with somebody, like Ann Foster and I had a bet on Kelton as far as when they're going to have a kid. Sorry, Kelton, we took a bet against you. To remember it, it turns out Ann owed me a penny, by the way. Put it on there because those things are fun. And, I didn't think about it at all. I totally forgot about that bet until the day that thing came back up on my calendar and had notes on it as to what the bet was and who owed what. Turns out Ann owed me a penny and I gloated like a peacock for a little while. It was great. Throw those on there. Large goals broken down into small pieces. Those go on there. And don't worry about the big goal. Break it down into small pieces. Projects and anything else that requires your thought, energy, and attention. Make sense? All right. Go schedule your time. That's what this is. This is a free and liberating exercise. It sounds like the commandments, right? Oh, you want me to be so restrictive and you want everything on here. No, this is a very liberating thing when put into good practice and in good exercise.